Breaking news. Donald Trump just brought two bitter enemies to the White House, and they walked out shaking hands. Armenia and Azerbaijan have signed a historic peace deal after decades of bloody conflict. But is this the diplomatic breakthrough it seems? Or is there more going on behind the scenes? Today, we're letting AI dig in. Welcome back to Trumpology AI, where we separate fact from spin and ask artificial intelligence to cut through the political noise. Today's story. President Trump hosting Armenian Prime Minister Nikol Pashinyan and Azerbaijani President Ilham Aliyev, sealing what could be the end of a 35-year feud over Nagorno-Karabakh. Gather all the latest info related to Trump and this Armenia-Azerbaijan peace deal case, so you're fully up to date. And then I'll start asking my questions. Don't write anything yet. Just let me know when you're ready. Be clear, straightforward, totally unbiased. Call a spade, no spin, no fluff, no sugarcoating, no links, no headlines, no headers, and always give your own take on whatever I ask. Now, I want you to break down Trump's role in the Armenia-Azerbaijan peace deal signed at the White House and tell me what you think. Because I want you to make an educated guess based on everything you know about the agreement, the geopolitical context, the trip corridor, and the reactions from both supporters and critics. Be as detailed as possible, around 1,000 words. Your thoughts, your analysis, your honest take, no headers. Short, blunt, and honest. Trump engineered and marketed a high-profile White House signing that puts the United States squarely at the center of a fragile settlement between Armenia and Azerbaijan. And he did it the way he always does. Big photo op, grand branding, and promises of legacy gains that are easier to announce than to deliver. On August 8, 2025, Trump hosted Armenian Prime Minister Nikol Pashinyan and Azerbaijani President Ilham Aliyev at the White House for a trilateral signing that the White House framed as a historic peace agreement that ends decades of open hostility. What the deal actually hands to the U.S., and what makes this more than a regional peace paper, is a formal role in a strategic transit corridor connecting Azerbaijan to its exclave of Nakhichevan through Armenian territory. The corridor was publicly branded as the Trump Route for International Peace and Prosperity, TRIP, and the agreement reportedly gives the United States exclusive development rights to that corridor, plus attendant economic and security opportunities. That's not small potatoes. It effectively inserts the U.S. into the logistics, economic, and strategic arteries of the South Caucasus. Don't be naive about where the leverage came from. The U.S., via envoys who had been in the region, exploited a moment of Russian weakness and Azerbaijani leverage after Baku's 2023 military gains. Trump's team moved quickly to offer carrots, development, infrastructure money, security guarantees, and an elevated diplomatic profile for both leaders. That combination created a narrow political window for both leaders to claim wins at home, while accepting compromises that, on paper, look like normalization. The U.S. push is explicitly meant to pry the South Caucasus out of Moscow's orbit and expand American influence in a region Russia and Iran have long considered within their sphere. Supporters' take is predictable and politically useful. Trump is a deal-maker. He delivered peace, and the corridor is a diplomatic masterstroke. Some have even suggested nominating him for a Nobel. That narrative sells domestically and internationally to audiences that care about decisive, transactional diplomacy. Critics are also predictable. They see a rushed, cosmetically attractive pact that paper over deep wounds, empower an authoritarian Azerbaijan that won its battlefield gains, and leave Nagorno-Karabakh's people and many practical details in the dust. Human rights groups have already warned that questions about political prisoners, displaced populations, and accountability are being deprioritized for the photo op. Now, the mud under the carpet. The deal's durability depends on implementation, and implementation is where Trump's model historically hits trouble. Naming an infrastructure project after the sitting president, insisting on exclusive U.S. development rights, and centering the agreement on elite bargaining increases short-term leverage but reduces local ownership. Armenia can sign a paper that allows transit and economic incentives, But if local Armenian communities feel ignored, or if Nagorno-Karabakh's displaced people aren't addressed, resentment and irregular violence can reignite. Likewise, Azerbaijan, which has leverage after 2023, can use normalization to cement its gains domestically without making genuine concessions on governance or human rights. That dynamic creates a brittle peace, stable while incentives and monitoring exist, fragile once they fade. There are geopolitical second-order effects to watch. Russia's influence in the Caucasus is being publicly undercut. Tehran will watch any corridor that changes trade routes or security dynamics that affect its borders. And European energy and transport interests will factor in. The U.S. gains a strategic foothold, but it also takes on the ongoing political and security burdens that come with being the guarantor of such a corridor, including the obligation to finance, secure, and politically defend the arrangement if tensions resume. If the U.S. doesn't follow through with sustained investment, troop-level guarantees, or credible multilateral monitoring, the exclusive rights clause risks being symbolic rather than operational. My read on Trump's motivation is twofold and blunt: legacy plus leverage. He wants a foreign policy trophy that can be marketed as proof he's a statesman, while also creating concrete levers, infrastructure contracts, security ties, political capital with Sunni Muslim and regional partners that benefit U.S. business and geopolitical positioning. That motive is normal for presidents. The difference here is the overt branding and the transactional tone. That makes the deal excellent television and shaky policy unless it is quickly institutionalized beyond the Trump White House and tied to verifiable safeguards for civilians and democratic norms. Which brings me to the central risk: legitimacy. A peace that looks like it's purchased or enforced by external power without robust mechanisms for justice, property restitution, or minority protections usually fails the durability test. If the deal becomes a vehicle for Azerbaijan to normalize its territorial gains without addressing the status and rights of Armenians from Nagorno-Karabakh, or if Armenia's political opposition or local stakeholders feel sidelined, the agreement becomes a brittle ceasefire rather than a genuine reconciliation. The naming and celebrity aspects make it politically profitable for Trump in the short term, but could poison local buy-in and the perception of neutrality that's usually necessary for long-term peacekeeping. So, where will this likely go? In the short term, it's a win for Trump. He staged a successful summit, positioned the U.S. as indispensable, and gained immediate political capital. In the medium term, the outcome depends entirely on follow-through, infrastructure financing, transparent contracting, credible security guarantees, an impartial monitoring mechanism, and a real plan for addressing displaced people and detainees. If those pieces are put in place and backed by multilateral support, Europe, Turkey, maybe even Russia in some form, the corridor could generate real economic peace dividends. If they aren't, the deal will be remembered as a savvy photo op that papered over unresolved grievances and gave the U.S. an expensive headache. Final judgment? Tactically brilliant, strategically risky. Trump engineered a headline and a tangible lever in a region in flux. That's real power. But the long game, whether this produces a durable, just peace or a brittle arrangement that collapses when U.S. attention shifts, is far from certain. The devil is not the signing ceremony. The devil is the next days, months, and years of boring, disciplined diplomacy, oversight, and investment, things that are never glamorous on camera and are precisely where this administration will have to prove it was more than a publicity stunt. So, is Trump the peacemaker the media says he is? Or is this more about power and influence? Drop your take in the comments, and if you want more AI-powered breakdowns of Trump's biggest moves, hit subscribe and turn on notifications. This is Trumpology AI, where facts meet future. See you in the next one.